Wow. My insides feel good. What is up, guys? Coach Joe here at the Lion's Den, and today I'm joined with two amazing people. We have Omar, Isuf, and Thrall.
Hi.
We're just hanging out and always trying to bring you guys cool content information, and these guys have been in the game for a long time, probably longer than I. So they have some wisdom on training, life, you name it. And what I wanted to ask them to share with you guys is maybe something that they thought starting off in their training journey, and as time went on, that idea either evolved or maybe even changed. So just wanted them to give us a couple little of those segments, and we'll see how it goes. So we'll start off with Alan. Sir Alan Thrall. How long have you been in the game? What do you do?
I was born in the game.
He was born
I've never
in the
left
game.
the game.
He came out of the game. And then just kind of give us your first one, then we'll kick it off with Omar.
I've been lifting since 8th grade in preparation for high school football. And I've owned a gym since for about 6 years now, so since 2013. And I would say the first thing, the most glaringly obvious thing to me is not one thing, but I think that it was be straightforward when I was a starting strength coach, and I was thinking that there's only one way to do things, one way to perform the lifts, and there's only one particular way to get strong. I don't agree with that anymore. And I think that, I think that comparing as far as like lifting mechanics, I think that comparing things to a stick figure or an illustration has its flaws, and that doesn't always pan out in the real world.
So it would be like an actual example of that with a lifter, you would say?
Well, I think that just being so rigid with, like, for example, the starting strength model of squatting, that this is the best way to squat, which is something that I really used to believe, is incorrect. There are world-class squatters who squat, differently from what the model teaches, and who am I to say that their squat would be even better if they followed this particular model? This isn't a roast on starting strength at all. This is just, me being straightforward that I used to believe that stuff, and I don't anymore.
Nice. Omar?
Here's Alan being real serious, and I was just gonna dick around, and now I gotta be serious. You know what I mean? Like, you just went all the way in.
Our posture is changing slightly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say, for myself, it's not a top one, but just one that came to mind when you brought up this topic, would just be the role of cardiovascular exercise in lifting. Mm-hmm. I would say earlier on, I had a bias in favor of cardiovascular work being necessary, let's say in the first place, for weight loss, as an example, right? Where I knew that you had to be in a caloric deficit in order to lose weight, but I thought the overall role of cardiovascular work was larger, meaning that in order to, in quotations, mobilize fat, I've been a trainer now for over a decade. I'm like, you'll lose a certain amount of fat, but to have that P ratio, the ratio either of gaining weight, how much is muscle, how much is fat, or losing weight, how much is muscle, how much is fat, I thought it would be more preferential if you did cardiovascular work as opposed to just being in a deficit. I also thought that cardiovascular work was more important to keep in terms of a long-term basis, in terms of you needing it as just part of your daily life. I think it's useful. I think it's a useful tool. I think if we define cardiovascular work here, I'm talking about work that's above 120, 130 beats a minute, right? Mm-hmm. So this isn't walking throughout the day, your NEAT, or those activities, but just for, in quotations, overall health. I think there are many different ways to achieve similar results, and I think that just running on a treadmill is merely one way. I actually think, depending upon the modality of training, you can achieve similar results just even with lifting weights or some activity that's outside the gym. So programming for clients earlier on in my career would always include a cardiovascular component, almost regardless of goals, but it's just something that's tacked on without the context. So I'm not saying at all the cardiovascular work is bad, but just the hierarchy of how important it was either for weight loss or then for general performance was higher back in the day versus now. I still think it's a useful tool, but like I said, every single client I'd program for would include some sort of cardiovascular component. Oh, you want to build muscle? Oh, you want to lose weight? I think it's a useful tool now, so it's been downgraded for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next
What about
one.
you?
What about me? Oh, I was just asking them questions.
You didn't write on a whiteboard.
I don't have a whiteboard. Ooh, I will say, I used to kind of piggybacking off of yours with conditioning, is I used to use cardio as my main source to lose weight, I would say, when I was trying to lose weight. But then as I developed a better relationship with food, I realized it was much easier to just be in a caloric deficit from eating versus tacking on tons and tons of extra cardio.
You'll work harder and you'll lose fat.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's a one for me.
I didn't really have, other than the first one, specific things that I would say, I'm wrong. I was wrong about, but more ideas. And I think that one thing that I used to kind of believe is that, maybe subconsciously, that I always had to provide an answer. But now I'm okay with saying I'm not really sure, even with clients or just any general question. I felt like I always, I was this point of authority, and I always had to say why this hurts or why this lift is struggling when there's a lot of context to those questions. And I'm more comfortable now with saying I'm not really sure, we'll figure it out. But back then, I think I was pretty quick to give an answer.
Yeah, fuck you, because that was basically my second point. I'd say, scope of practice, and I would have to give Eric Helms credit just doing that podcast, Iron Culture, with him, where he talks about that a lot. Just what is the role of a trainer, right? And so someone might, even if we talk about motivation, where let's talk about the client-trainer role, the whole concept of a rent-a-friend. So besides getting some knowledge wrong or offering advice that's way beyond your scope of practice. So someone says like, oh, like this hurts, like, well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is what you need to do. And I could tell, I don't know you, but I could definitely tell. P.S. I took this weekend course. So that's kind of obvious, but even the dynamic or how you approach training an individual to try and foster that relationship, coaching is so much more than just knowledge. And so scope of practice is not just the knowledge component of it, but it's also the relationship and the dynamic that you attempt to foster. Where I don't know if you guys feel this, but this relates now, again, to when I started out. You could sometimes turn into that role with a client where you're sort of that rent-a-friend as a personal trainer. And the question becomes, with the hour that I have with this person, am I maximizing my time in order to help them reach their goal? As opposed to kind of just listening to them, where it's either like a passive role you're doing, or you're not framing things in the correct way to help them have those own individual epiphanies to push them towards where they need to be. So scope of practice, where it's like, yeah, like I'll be your emotional support here. Well, it's like, well, let's back up a second. What am I actually trying to do here by being your trainer? And so attempting to offer advice that you shouldn't, where it's outside of your scope, but also how you try and interact with clients in order to help them figure out what they want. And I think now what I try and do more is I try and lead people to answer questions for themselves in terms of goals or all those sorts of things. So scope of practice, and then how you approach the whole training paradigm. Yeah.
My second one would be, I used to have that belief that I had to quote unquote destroy myself with every training session, and if I wasn't doing that, I wasn't getting the proper results. It was just kind of that go hard, go home mentality. But over the years, I've realized that that's not the case. We're in it for the long term and trying to manage stress correctly, where you don't have to be, sore and quote unquote, like I said, smashed or destroyed, or all the adjectives you'll see on Instagram that I thought were cool at one point to post and say those things, even psychologically, not realizing how they may have been affecting me on a deeper level. So just in programming in general, realizing that I think way more long-term and sustainable results in managing fatigue better overall. Last one.
So let me see what the last one. So I've got, there's more than one way to do things. I can say I don't know. And then, yes. So I used to think that Omar Isuf knows what he's talking about.
And now
I have learned since then.
But since this video.
I couldn't be more wrong. So I'm much wiser now. And I don't ever click on an Omar Isuf video.
Yeah.
Damn.
That makes 2 of us. Yeah. Clear out the way.
Yeah, totally wrong. Yeah.
We all know someone that's happened to. Video.
Take 21.
My final point that I would say is to be careful not to attach yourself to one identity. And both myself or individuals that I would coach, where belonging to a strength facility has been fantastic and I thoroughly enjoy it. But all too often I'll see people, and I've had to check myself, where they'll say either I'm a powerlifter, right? Like, this is what I am, this is what I plan on doing. I'm like, well, when you first started lifting, you weren't a powerlifter. You were just someone that wanted to get in shape. And things are kind of nebulous, your goals, where they change over time. And you realize you have certain realizations that as you continue to change what you want to do, and that might once again change over time, where it's not this constant thing. And I think people sometimes need that safety, the certainty of belonging to a tribe, and so they'll find their home, and that's fantastic. But if it overstays its welcome, so as an example, there's an older lifter at the gym that I go to that is just, he's legitimately past 50 and he's been suffering numerous setbacks. Strength training gave him a renewed sense of purpose, helped him get into the gym, but now he's facing so many obstacles, he's nowhere near hitting his old numbers, and he's kind of just spinning his wheels, and he's becoming demotivated. And so one of the things that actually Sean, the owner, had him do is just change up his training. So he's doing, in quotations, more hypertrophy-oriented training. He basically was kind of more of a West Side guy, so he stuck to very low repetitions, and so his training has kind of done a 180. But because there's the novelty there for him, and because he's not attached now to his own previous numbers, his adherence to the gym is at an all-time high. So I would say becoming attached to one identity, especially considering that we all didn't start out that way. When we started lifting, we just started lifting because maybe we had, superficial goals, or maybe we just enjoyed doing it and we get caught up along the way. You just have to check it. And it's okay, actually, if in fact you have found your calling and you have found your tribe and you know for sure that's what you want to do. But understand, after lifting for a decade, and especially having my university friends, where we all started lifting together, I think there's 6 of us, and now only 2 of us continue to lift, and exploring those reasons. And I'm talking some were high caliber, either athletes, football players, and so forth. So these were motivated individuals. Things change, times change, their perspective is different. That's okay, but trying to stay consistent in the gym and finding kind of that discipline and the reason why you want to be there is most important.
So thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on the channel and talking about some things that maybe aren't talked about enough. We're always trying to be real and present you guys honestly just genuine content to help you along your journey. Like we said, maybe you're just starting, maybe you're in the middle, maybe you've been in it for the long haul. These are all tips we can kind of fall back on to help us through whatever period that we're in. It's just giving you guys a little bit of some tidbits to keep you pushing. So make sure you guys check out their channels. They're very well known. We got Thrall, Omar, Isuf. We'll put their little things. They have little things. Little things right there.
Please be accurate.
Yes, I'm very accurate, very accurate. But subscribe to them if you aren't already, and we got lots of good stuff coming. Peace.